Hello, hello, hello. Marci Geller here, your host of Square Peg Chat. We're going to give it a couple of minutes just to let people join us, because sometimes it takes a bit. I am very pleased with how happy I am considering how crappy it was today outside. I know I've talked about the weather before, and I am definitely somebody who is weather challenged, and today was an accomplishment because it was like cold and nasty out. So anyway, let's see, I'm getting like little reminders here and stuff. Oh, I'm also going to turn on the chat function so I can see if anybody's talking. If this is your first time tuning in, a couple of things just so you know how it functions. You can interact with me. Obviously, I can't hear you, but I can read if you have questions or comments. Sometimes I'll throw comments and stuff out to you guys, and I always welcome feedback. So if you look to the right of my face, I think on your screen, there should be a window. And there may be one or two tabs up at the top. One says chat and one says social stream. I tend to use the chat function. That's the one that seems to be the easiest for everybody to follow. If you want to do social stream, you can do that one also. And I will try and remember to check it periodically. Either way, I will do my best to respond and interact with you guys. That's what this is all about. If this is your first time tuning in, this is a half hour that I set aside every week on Mondays, almost every week. Depends. If I'm on the road, we don't do it because we've learned that the feed is not good enough. So it's too stuttery and it makes people frustrated. But if I'm not on the road, we do this half-hour chat, and I pick a topic and I throw it out there and I throw out some ideas and we chat, and that's what Square Peg Chat is all about. So, so you understand about the chat. Oh, the other thing I wanted to tell you about the chat is that you don't have to sign in to use the chat function. You can chat anonymously. I don't have to know who you are. Nobody else needs to know who you are. That's totally within your comfort zone. So if you want to be revealed, you can, I think you have to like create an account for Ustream or something like that. You're welcome to do that. Or if you want, for expediency purpose, to just chat anonymously, that's fine too. You can identify yourself in your text chats to me. So that's about it. So anyway, today is the first Monday in April. It's April 4th, 2016. And I decided to make the topic tonight, change your patterns, get results. That's what it was. Change your patterns, get results. And I stammered there because I actually had a longer title, but Twitter wouldn't let me make a longer title. So we shortened it down to change your patterns, get results. And really the gist of it is very beautifully described in one of my favorite sayings that I learned from Dr. Wayne Dyer, who passed not too long ago, but I still feel is lingering on and kind of watching over all of us and guiding and stuff, but neither here nor there. He had this fabulous saying that said, stupid is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So I was thinking about that and how, this evolution of our seasons, how it's now spring, and how there's this sort of rebirth of like the whole planet around here, at least in the Northeast. It's like things start to bloom and the weather starts to get warmer and there's birds chirping outside. And so it was this idea of renewal, and it was this idea of me, once again, digging deep and thinking about the things that are working for me and the things that are not working for me. And so I thought, let's talk about patterning, because I think that, for myself anyway, it's very convenient to rely on patterns that I'm comfortable with, things that I'm used to doing, things that I'm used to saying, exhibit. And so I've tried to be very responsible for the way I pattern, and if they're serving me or not. If they're not serving me, then why am I continuing these patterns? So I actually wrote myself a little bit of an outline to work from and to talk about, to keep us on topic, because I've been really focused on making this half hour as tight and informative and fun and hopefully inspiring as possible. So, okay. So the first thing I wanted to say is I'm not suggesting for myself or anybody that's watching that you need to change your patterns necessarily. And if there are patterns that do need to change, I don't think that I personally am going to try and take them all on at once because just in the act of overwhelming yourself, you're sort of setting yourself up for failure, and that's not what I want to do. I want to set myself up for success. So I decided to look at my patterns, but then focus in on the ones that were either really working or that weren't working, and try and go from there. So I saw this article that was talking about the actions of truly successful people, and of course, as we've discussed here time and time again, the concept of success is such a perspective thing, because what one person thinks is successful, another person may not. It's extremely subjective. What I consider success may be very, very different from what you consider success. And so I'm not trying to put a judgment on it, but I thought that the one thing that I found interesting about this article was that a lot of the things that they listed are things that I do. I have these, daily routines that sort of keep me grounded and centered in what I'm trying to create in my life. But also there were some things that I had not considered, and one of them was getting showered and dressed really early. And that one, of course, was the one that I rebelled against the most because, if I'm out on the road, well, of course I'm up really early and getting changed and, getting the full hair and the makeup because I have to either perform or do an interview or see people, and there's this whole persona that has to get, adjusted for me to feel ready for prime time, as they say. But on my days off, on the days when I'm not on the road or that I have like a home day when I'm working on office-y kind of things, my luxury, I'm going to see, there it is, I was doing that air quote thing. My luxury is sort of allowing myself to be a little less put on in my day. Like I can walk around with no makeup on and not do my hair and, wear sweatpants. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, I'm curious to see what will happen if I change that pattern. What's going to happen to me and the way I view myself and the things that I get done if I change that one little pattern. So, I don't know. I'm toying with the idea. I don't know if anybody has thoughts or opinions about it, but that was the one thing that I sort of focused on because it was the one thing in the article that was very different than the way I sort of conduct my life and my days and stuff like that. So I guess the next thing to talk about, is, well, in regards to that is what does success mean? Because I know we've talked about it before, but if you're joining in for the first time, it never hurts to really explore what does success mean to you. Is it just career based? Is it financially based? Is it love based? Like, how do you gauge whether or not you're successful? And I tend to measure a lot of aspects of my life. My husband reminds me of this constantly. Stop measuring. But I do. I measure things, and not just outcomes. But I measure everything, I'm like, here I am, I'm wearing my little jawbone up, and I'm measuring how many steps I did today. Here, I'll show you. Let's see. There it is. Oops, I'll do it again. I did, I went 15% over my goal. Not bad, right? So, I mean, and that's it. It's like that little knowledge of knowing that, like, all right, I set out to do 10,000 steps today, and I probably did around 1,200, because actually it's probably, I did 125%, it's looking like. I measure things. No, it's even more. So, all right, I'm going to get away from that. But, you know, I tend to measure, and also I'm very goal oriented. Like, I want to achieve this, whatever this is, and how do I get there? And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. But the one thing that I did embark on this year, and I may have mentioned before, but each year I try to set in motion a new idea or mantra or concept for myself to live by and see how that affects how I feel about life and myself. And so this year, my intention that I set was to try to not only stay present in the moment, but to allow myself that time and breathing room to recoup, to do nothing, to be social, just for the sake of being social, like not in a networking sense or in a convention or a conference sense, but to just allow myself social moments. And I'm very proud of myself because I've been pretty good about it. Like, even this last weekend, I was like reminding my husband that, you know, we didn't really, we had some plans, you know, things we wanted to get done in the house. That's always, there's always a list of things that we want to get done for the house and for the studio and all that kind of stuff. But I actually surprised him and said, hey, do you want to go out to Bobby's Burger Palace and invite some friends and do something spontaneous? And he almost fainted because that kind of stuff doesnn't happen, or doesn't birth from me too often lately, just because I'm so busy. And he was like, sure. And we did it, and we wound up just having the most lovely, fun, light time. And I mean light figuratively and literally. It was light in that there was no weight to it. There was no expectations. It was just like, let's go out and have fun. Novel idea, right? And then there was a lightness to it in that, in the literal sense, in that it sort of brightened my perspective. It made me feel more optimistic and less encumbered. You know, I have so much going on right now in my world, and I'm really doing my best to balance it all. And, you know, I've found another organizing tool. You guys who do this with me every week are probably laughing because I'm always on that search for the perfect organizational app. And I found a new one. It's called Wonderlust, and it's Wunderlist. A Wonderlist, that's what it is, Wonderlist. And so far I'm liking it a lot. I love that there are different categories for things, and I can like have folders and assign different lists to different folders, and I can set due dates, and I don't have to think about it if it's not due today. So I'm liking that aspect of it. There are other things that I'm not loving about it, but you know, is there a perfect thing out there that I have not yet invented? Because I'm trying to invent it, but I don't have those skills. I have other skills. That's not one of them. So anyway, success about not measuring and not qualifying things about, you know, based on my basing my happiness on those kind of things. So that's one of my patterns that I've been pretty good about, is about judging or I don't want to say judging, about assessing my level of success based on different things than I used to. So, hello, new person. So that's kind of how I started the whole process of where I wanted to take this today. So I did decide today to focus on maybe one or two of the patterns that I want to adjust and see how that affects my life, and more importantly, how it affects my living, how I feel in every given moment, because I decided that a year from now, I don't want to wake up being that person who feels like there's an elephant standing on her chest, which has been the case quite often, and I'm really working to not feel that way, especially the minute I wake up in the morning. I'm working on waking up and feeling excited or maybe just peaceful, you know? So here are some of the things that I thought about. I thought about this one thing that I've talked about in the past, and it's listening to and obeying my gut instead of my head. And I know that seems very, very obvious, but it's not obvious. And I will tell you, I'm very, very proud that today I made a decision based on my gut instinct. Even though my logical self was trying to work me out of my decision and get me to stay locked into this thing that I knew was not a good idea. And I am very proud that not only did I listen to my gut, but I didn't explain myself out of it. I didn't feel this need to, like, you know, explain to anyone why I made the decision. And that made me really proud, because I've spent a lot of time in my life explaining my life choices, who I am, why I am, to just about everybody. You know, it's weird. There's almost like this inherent guilt for being an artist. Like, I'm so sorry that I chose this. I don't want to be a burden on you or the world. And I'm realizing how silly that is, because, you know, it's not like I'm sitting here thinking like, well, what I do musically is going to make the world a better place. It's going to inspire every human. No. I think that there are certain people who are going to really connect with what I do, and it's going to make them feel a little bit less lonely, and I think that that serves an incredibly high purpose. And it's not about fame at this point in the game. It just isn't. It's about feeling real and feeling like I'm doing the best work I can do. That's really what it's about for me. So, okay, so yay me, I listened to my gut. What was my other thing? Oh, factoring what is really important and allowing myself to be, which is kind of what I just spoke about, how, you know, I had a million things on the agenda for the weekend. You know, there were a million things to do. And yet I still made space and time to just hang out with friends, which is something I don't allow myself to do very often. And it was a good thing to do. So I allowed myself to be. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for, and believe it or not, I was absolutely productive this week, and I got so much done. I keep looking at my wonder list and going, is this right? Like, is it missing something? But no, I pretty much ticked off almost everything on my list. Okay, so what else was there? Oh, this was important. Remembering that I have that choice to shift my perspective. You know, I think that when you're someone like myself who tends to get that seasonal affective disorder, which causes depression, let's face it, I get depression. You know, I have worked my way through depression almost my entire life at this point, and I'm getting so darn good at it. Out of working myself out of it, not good at depression. I am really good at recognizing the signs like it's coming and going through the little like emergency list that I made for myself to work myself through it. And that's something that I want to continue to do rather than the old pattern, which was to indulge the depression, and instead of going through my little emergency steps, I used to just wallow, for lack of a better word, but that's the truth. I used to wallow and just magnify the sadness to the point where everything was hopeless and I was hopeless and there was no point in me even breathing the next breath. And that is something that I am truly committed to not doing any longer. So, those are the things that I thought about. And, you know, the biggest thing that I wanted to bring out is that I'm proposing this for all of us, not to put yet another weight on anybody. I'm putting it out there to experiment with. And also with the knowledge that this is what I'm promising myself, and I'm hoping that you will promise to yourself that if you find yourself slipping and not checking out this new pattern, that you will forgive yourself. There will be no punishment. There will be no judgment. There will be no self-deprecation. We are going to be kinder to ourselves. And I do believe that that will make all the difference in the world. I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but I am. It makes me very emotional to think about how it is very natural for me to be kind to others, for the most part, you know, kinder than I ever am to myself. And my shift in pattern is that I want to be kinder to myself. And I really want all of you to be kinder to yourself, because I think that that may be the key. You know, maybe that's where the peace sits, and the self-acceptance, and the joy, and the potential for remarkable happiness. And maybe that's what ignites peace and joy and remarkable happiness all over the world, you know? So that's just my little tidbit. That's what I wanted to share with you guys about this topic. And you're so quiet tonight, and I am sitting here going, I'm not going to be self-conscious about that, because sometimes you guys just want to listen, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to, you know, judge like, oh, you're not interacting with me, because that's not the point of this. The point is for us to all get whatever it is that we need out of it, right? So, that said, I did choose a very specific song to perform to end our chat today. But before I go into the song, I have to remember my housekeeping. Okay, so if you are not getting my newsletters, or as I call them, my newsletters, please, right above, sign the mailing list. And I don't send a ton. I usually send a monthly newsletter, and then I will send updates if there's something near you in particular. I do it by the system that I use. It identifies, not to me, but it identifies within the mailing list, like if I'm going to be in Manhattan, you know, 100 miles out within, you know, Manhattan, I can send a very specialized email to just those people. So the updates will only ever usually be either something really amazing has happened, and I really, really want to get it out there, and I don't want to wait until the first of the next month to tell you, or I'm going to be doing a show or an interview or something like that. So please sign up for my newsletter. You get a free MP3, and then you'll get to hear from me, and you'll become one of my lovely listeners, as I affectionately call you guys. The other thing is, if you do not own Square Peg, or maybe older CDs, they're all for sale here. There's a store, and it would mean so much to me if you bought some music for yourself, or maybe someone that you love that you want to share the music with, because that's how I keep this thing going, guys. This is how I keep a roof over my head and pay bills and buy clothing and food. You know, it's not magic. It is a business as much as it is a love. My music is my business. So if you would honor me with some CD purchases or download purchases, that will just be another cherry on the cake. So, moving on to our song. I decided to share what I call the oldie but goodie, because it's actually from 4 CDs ago. This is off of actually the first self-produced, self-released CD that we ever did here for me at Sonic Underground was called Here on the Edge. And I decided to do a song off of Here on the Edge called World Falls Down. And the reason that I chose this particular song is, first of all, there's a very distinctive pattern that goes on in the music that made me think, when I was thinking of what can I sing about that has to do with patterns. Well, this song is like all patterns. And you'll see what I'm talking about once I do it. But the other reason I decided to do it is because this song, much like many of my songs, it talks about the challenge and then the act of getting back up again, which I always do. So I'm hoping that if you're having any challenges, maybe you're in the Northeast and it's like crappy, cold, rainy weather where you are too, that maybe this idea of standing up when the world falls down will inspire you to some degree. So, without further ado, I'm going to have to take some moisture. So it goes like this. Okay. Let's try to face you guys somehow, but it's not easy. Okay. Well, this latest news shouldn't come as any surprise, being that lately things have been so strange. And I know that this is just one of those many moments that I stand up when the world falls down on me. Wow, thank you for joining me. I know it was a quiet chat. It was mostly me yapping tonight, but that's okay. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and if you were too shy or didn't have anything to say, that's okay. But if you were too shy and you want to message me afterwards or make a tweet and tell people about it, that would be fine. I'm going to share the broadcast so that if people tuned in late, they can see it from the beginning. That's pretty much it, guys. I guess I wish you all a beautiful, fabulous week. Hopefully the sun will come out tomorrow. Much love, much joy, and wishing you all to be kind to yourselves. Be kind to you.